Alright, so a couple weeks ago, we got an episode of The Flash titled Attack on Central City, where among the guerrilla fights and the decent CGI, we got a cameo from this new mystery speedster on Earth 19, who in the comics is known as the Accelerated Man. And we also found out during this cameo that this speedster happens to have purple lightning, which is really cool, not gonna lie, instead of the usual yellow/orange or red. Since then, there's been a bunch of different theory videos that popped up online on why the Accelerated Man has purple lightning, why he's even on the show if he only appeared for a minute, stuff like that. And while some of these theories are honestly kinda interesting, I do think there are a few really important details that we've seen on The Flash that these videos are missing, and these details point to some really interesting things. So let's get into it. Let's talk about why the Accelerated Man has purple lightning and what his appearance in the show means for the rest of Season 3. So before I get into what I think is going to happen with the Accelerated Man, let's just debunk a few of these other theories about his lightning color, because there's a lot of misunderstandings being spread around right now. Like how some people apparently think the Accelerated Man got his speed in a way that was maybe somehow different than how we've seen every other speedster get their powers. Like maybe he wasn't exposed to dark matter, or maybe he was exposed to some sort of machine or energy source we haven't really seen before, something like that. And honestly, this was the theory I was going with before I started making this video, because if you've read the comics at all, you'll remember that the Accelerated Man comes from a world that just started tapping into electricity. So they're kind of stuck in this Victorian era level of technology, and because of that, it influences their architecture, their clothing style, that kind of stuff. The thing is though, when we get to see Earth 19 in the show, you can clearly see that it isn't anything like in the comics at all. I mean, we see modern buildings in the background there, plus the fact that Gypsy and HR aren't exactly dressed like they belong in that olden style era at all. And there's also the fact that HR, a guy from Earth 19, mentions having stuff like modern era movies, stuff they couldn't have if Earth 19 was exactly like in the comics.
It was like that movie, The Gladiator was the lead gladiator. What was that called?
Gladiator.
And on top of that, every natural Speed Force user has gotten their abilities through a combination of electricity and some type of chemical exposure, meaning the same pattern would follow through with the Accelerated Man, but I'm going to get into that in a little bit. I've also seen some theories that maybe the Accelerated Man is using some form of V9, like maybe it's changing his lightning color like it did to Zoom back in Season 2, and even though that's technically possible, I mean, there's always a chance somebody out there managed to make a safe version of V9, I don't see this one happening either. If he's taking the drug, then why isn't his lightning just plain blue? It turned Eliza's and Zoom's lightning blue at some point while they were both taking it. And on top of that, the drug tends to make people more aggressive. Like, it's arguable that Zoom got more ferocious after he started taking V9, but you can see Eliza definitely got meaner after she started shooting up with V9. I mean, she even developed a new personality from the stuff.
I know what's best for us and where to get more.
There's also this spin-off idea that the alternate universe speed drug is mixing with his original lightning color, and that's what's making it purple. But if that's the case, then that would mean the Accelerated Man originally had red lightning, right? And since red lightning generally means the character is evil or connected to the negative Speed Force or something like that, then I'm gonna have to safely say this theory's no good either. I mean, I know it's still too early to say much about the guy's personality, but we do see him working with Gypsy, and he seems pretty level-headed, plus the fact that he apparently saved his world during this crazy metahuman war HR talks about earlier in the season.
So then the Flash, my Flash again, not your Flash, we hatched a plan to gather all the remaining metahumans into one place for a final showdown. They called it World War M. It was glorious.
Alright, so all that having been said, this is the theory I've been going with. I'm thinking the Accelerated Man either did something to himself and gave himself his speed, similar to Eobard Thawne, or maybe he was exposed to something during that metahuman war I mentioned earlier, although honestly I'm kind of leaning towards the former. And the reason I say that is because of how every speedster in the Arrowverse starts off. First off, I mentioned earlier that every speedster gets their powers in roughly the same way. There always has to be some form of electricity entering their system, plus an injection of a separate material. Every speedster we've seen on screen, with a few exceptions, was electrocuted and hit with some chemical material. Barry was splashed with chemicals and hit by lightning caused by dark matter particles. Eobard Thawne recreated the same accident and got similar powers. Zoom was hit in the electric chair and exposed to dark matter energy. And Jessie was exposed to a wave of energy after Barry disappeared into the Speed Force for the first time and got a jump start with her powers after Barry shocked her with Speed Force energy. Even Wally, when he got his powers in the Flashpoint timeline, mentioned that he was struck by lightning and got exposed to that nitro fluid in his car.
I was messing around with a new nitro formula to get my engine revving faster. Then one night, I'm racing in a thunderstorm. My car gets struck by lightning. And then it must have mixed with the formula because, boom, I was in a coma for 9 months. And then when I woke up, I was the fastest man alive.
Even then though, I know some of you are probably wondering whether or not that unknown variable or that extra material that needs to be injected for a speedster to get their powers, if that can influence the color of their lightning. And the answer is no, it can't. The reason I say that is because pretty much every speedster always starts off with yellow/orange lightning, no matter where they get their speed from. The only exceptions thus far are Savitar, who according to legends told through what's basically the speedster version of the telephone game, got his powers through the Philosopher's Stone, but since it's looking more and more like he could be a future version of Wally or something, then this might just be one of those weird time loop things. And Eobard, who created the negative speed force when he gave himself his powers. I covered what the negative speed force is in a couple of my other videos, you should check those out when you get the chance, and that has its own lightning color anyway. Alright, so we talked a little bit about why the Accelerated Man has purple lightning, but why is he even on screen in the first place? We all thought he was going to help out in the fight against Grodd, but clearly that didn't happen, so what's the big deal? Well, honestly, I think we're going to see the Accelerated Man pop back up, but as somebody who can lend speed to Barry during the final fight against Savitar. See, the show's gone out of its way to point out that Barry isn't fast enough to stop Savitar on his own, and that's the reason why he was training Wally to do it until, you know, Wally got sucked into the Speed Force and that whole thing happened. And we know he won't be a mentor or anything, because that's treading old ground and the writers probably want to move past watching Barry learn from other speedsters. And plus, interdimensional travel is pretty much banned on Earth 19. I mean, I know people like Gypsy and the Accelerated Man can bend the rules and travel to other Earths to pick up runaways from Earth 19, but it's not like they just risk those laws by popping over all the time to train some random speedster they probably never heard of. Which leaves us with the speed lending idea. See, in the comics, speedsters have the ability to lend each other speed temporarily in order to make themselves faster for a period of time. We got a glimpse of something like this when Zoom was obsessed with stealing Barry's speed and transferring it into himself, although I still don't believe it made him any faster. Anyway, that's what I think the point of introducing the Accelerated Man is. Bring more speedsters onto the show so Barry, and maybe Cisco, can travel from world to world and collect speed from everyone that they can in order to make Barry fast enough to stop Savitar. Alright you guys, that's my take on why the Accelerated Man has purple lightning. If you have any questions about this theory, or maybe you guys have your own theories you want to point out, then go ahead and post them in the comments below. And don't forget, the first season of Iron Fist is coming out on Netflix this Friday. I'm going to be doing a review on it, so stay tuned for that. Alright, I will see you guys next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to click that like button, maybe leave me a comment while you're at it, and go ahead and click that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to check out any of my social media pages. I've got a Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram. All those links are going to be in the description below. And I've also got my last video right there in the middle of your screen. So if you want to check that out, go ahead and click it, check it out. Alright, and I will see you all next time.